This is just a quick video I wanted to do on stain. Take those off. There's just a lot of glare on this. About staining tomahawk handles versus oiling and burning them. Now, in the past, you may have seen some of my videos on different techniques with making knives, with fitting knives, with finishing knives, and also forging hammers and tomahawks and other things we do here in our shop here at Forge Memory in St. Elmo. And but before we get on to the video here, if you would please hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate that, and feel free to tell your friends, share it out on social media. So, technique I was doing prior was using some boiled linseed oil, and I would coat the handle. Oh, I almost dropped that. I would coat the handle of the tomahawk, the axe, hammer, whatever I was doing, and generally I would apply heat. Now I sometimes would use a propane torch. A lot of times I would use my forge and run that in and out. And what that resulted in was a finish like this, which I think looks pretty cool. It's a little dull, right? It's a little dusty, so I mean I can always put a little more oil on it. But another technique, which is pretty basic and most people would probably go to before doing the oiling and burning, unless you're a woodworker, would be to add some stains. So I have some of my favorite, and that is a dark walnut. And that dark walnut really makes for an attractive handle. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at similar finishes. You know, it's a little more uniform on the stained handle versus the oiled and burn. Um, Either way, I feel they look better than this handle that's just in the raw. So whatever you prefer, or whatever perhaps your customer prefers, is going to make a huge difference on maybe what technique you use or what you have available. Both methods are quite affordable and give a nice, desirable product at the end. Let me put these away and I'm going to show you my technique here. So, first thing I'm going to recommend, get yourself a paper towel, some paper towels, get yourself some gloves. And I know people are going, those are lunch lady gloves. Well, you know what? I go through a lot of these, and I just happened to pick some up at the store one day. So make sure the lid is on your stain well. If it's not, you're going to know it. And also, baby oil works pretty good for removing this from your skin when you get it on there. So usually I shake this for a little while, and what I'll do, I'm actually going to slide this back a little because you'll notice I do have a can of silicone. That's what I'm spraying the heads with after this, but you got to be a little cautious about that because what will happen, one, if you're around fire, that's not a good thing. So make sure you're not near an open flame. Make sure you're not on a surface where people are going to be walking because this stuff is really slick. But just be cautious about what you're doing. So what I'm going to do, I'll take my tomahawk, and I guess I probably need to find. Here's a very worn chisel that I need to sharpen. And it's a pretty simple process here. It really is. Keep in mind that the stain's really not. If you do put oil on it, so we're going stain versus oil and burn. If you put oil on it, a lot of times the head will get covered in oil, and then you've got to remove that. In this case, the stain really doesn't adhere to metallic surfaces. So a little easier cleanup, the issue being that when you spray it down with the silicone or a similar aerosol, it does tend to make some of that stain run. And what I'm doing, I've used a sponge brush in the past, and I've found that the stain just eats that sponge brush up. And when that sponge brush gets wet, it has a tendency not to hold up too well. So I'm just using just a small, extremely cheap bristle brush that Cheyenne gave me. And I'm just going to go along here. And I'm just going to slather this on. It looks almost like motor oil or something. It's a dark stain. And be sure to get both ends of your handle. Now, some people may be asking, why would you burn or stain a handle like that? It's just a tomahawk. One, oiling, especially applying oil as maintenance on handles, it has a tendency to help prevent some cracking. I believe it strengthens them somewhat. Am I racist? Nope. Banged a lot of chicks, all different walks of life, buddy. Not a racist. There we go. So anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to continue doing that with each one of these. I'm going to let them hang. I'm going to let them set a little bit, and I get a much better result, a much darker finish, and I really like that. So here we go. And that's just slathering that on. And if you want to be a little more conservative with your with your application methods, of course, you know, you can do that. This is just something I'm doing, especially as many of these as I have to do, which I've got 7 here, plus I've got a pile of them over there that I'm actually probably going to be doing the oil technique, because there's some handles over there that are warped, and what that results in is I've got to apply heat to straighten those handles out. All right, once more, guys, if you would, please like and subscribe. And if you have any comments that are worthwhile, if it's about, if it's race baiting or something like that, like, go somewhere else. But as far as legitimate comments on education or on artistry, self-expression, and so forth, feel free to comment. So there's a little extra stain on this, and you can see how that's also getting on the axe head right there. But I'm just sliding these to the side as I'm going through processing them. And then what I'll do is I'll go back through, starting with the ones that I did first, and I'll wipe those down. So the technique, this is a little faster and doesn't require heat. However, heat is important on these curing. So if you're doing this in cooler weather, your stain may take longer to set. So just going right along and cleaning up my brush marks and everything. Of course, I have brush marks like you will with paint. Now, I've used this Minwax stain since about probably 2015. Not the same can, but and I've always liked it. Now, sometimes I'll use this for enhancing antler, to enhance the color, especially on like chalk white elk or whitetail antler. And I've got to say, I'm pretty happy with how that works. And I'll probably do a video on that at some point. All right, this is looking pretty good. So it's probably not the most exciting video, but for anyone who's either a blacksmith or a bladesmith, or maybe you just like you do recreational throwing with tomahawks, which I did for years and still do today. Something I found is that doing something kind of in real time, that can give people a better perspective on how to go about finishing out a piece. And I'll give you an example. I had a young man come in here this past weekend for a Damascus class for his birthday, and he was asking about trying to get a hamon to pop on a blade that he had done, and it was very subtle. And he said he had only soaked it, of course, in this kind of cooler weather, that he had soaked it only for 2 or 3 minutes in one time. And I was like, well, generally I would recommend more more cycles than that, essentially, and that can be beneficial in getting a deeper etch. And he was telling me, I told him, I said, you might want to consider doing some sanding in between etching cycles. And so he was going to go try that, and I hope it works well for him. Now, the handles that I got here, these are actually seconds from a company called Crazy Crow, and I pretty well knew what I was getting when I ordered them. And I'm not too worried about it. Like I said, there's some that I'm going to have to work on. Some of these have had irregularities and so forth, but I'm making it work, and it's also a way that I'm trying to pass savings on to the customer base. Once more, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. This is the last handle I'm doing, and then I'm going to go through and I'm going to start cleaning these up. Okay? So I'm going to wipe them down, hit them with some there we go. Hit them with some silicone as a rust inhibitor, and I will be right back. I got to go grab a few more gloves and a roll of paper towels. I will be just a second. I wasn't as prepared for this as what I was hoping, but so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go just kind of do a reveal on this, on how that piece looks at first once it's cleaned up. And this is going to vary from piece to piece, and depending upon how long you let the stain sit, as well as what type of wood you're using, the grain, the initial coloration, and so forth. But you guys will see, here's the first one that I had done. And keep in mind, if you hang them like I did, you're going to have some of this drip on the floor, or whatever's below it. But right now, I have what I would call a desirable finish, and something that matches the hammer marked appearance of this axe. Now this will Usually kind of sweat stain for just a little bit. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do a quick shot. And that, there's my rust inhibitor and pretty cool axe. All right, I'm liking it. I like seeing things come together. So I guess now I can go ahead. Now keep in mind that there can be some liquid between the eye and the handle. So just be cautious about that. Be aware of that. Okay. So next, coming in here, cleaning it up again. And some of these can be really, really interesting. And one thing I like about the grain is it looks more natural. It looks more antique, a little more authentic. And I believe it preserves the handle more so, as far as being able to lock moisture in. If you do a tight fit on one of these tomahawks, adding oil or adding stain can actually cause that to swell slightly and tighten up the fit even more so. Let me throw this nasty paper towel away. Now, my experience is, if you want the better fit up, to do your fit up and then to oil the handle versus using the stain, and in most cases, you're going to have a better fit. And then you can have have a great one.